Welcome to another edition of Baseball for Maniacs. Owen, we're just about done with the American League. All we got to do is talk about the West. And honestly, what's there really more to talk about other than the Mariners are about to run this?
Yeah, I mean, the Mariners, they're freaking loaded, dude. Like, they've always had the pitching, but they would never get to the playoffs. Obviously, they got there in 22, but then they got swept. They're a team that if they get in, they're extremely dangerous. And I think with their offensive additions that they made, it's just going to lead to them steamrolling the AL West. I still have the Tigers as my number one seed, but I got the Mariners number two. So let's get into it. Their rotation is legit, and it's always been legit, but Logan Gilbert, Brian Wu, fully healthy Brian Wu. Need that for the playoffs because I think he only had a few appearances out of the bullpen. Maybe if he's in that rotation throughout the playoffs, they win it. George Kirby, Luis Castillo, and Bryce Miller, who I think is going to have a bounce back year because last year he had an injury riddled season.
Absolutely. I'm 100% on the Bryce Miller rebound train. I think he's going to explode. If he's the five guy in that rotation, oh my God.
Dude, it's just like, and he has the talent to where, like last year, I think it was just injuries. And Luis Castillo gets underrated because of how good that rotation is. Luis Castillo is still a dog to where if you have a great starting rotation, you're going to win so many ball games no matter how bad your offense is. It's really in the sense of the Mariners if they all get healthy at the right time. Because if they do, you could put one of those guys in the bullpen and that would help them out a lot. And their bullpen isn't bad as well. Let's get into it. Andres Munoz, one of the best closers in baseball, who should have been used against Stuart Springer in that seventh or eighth inning, which it just pisses me off with managers that they don't get creative. I get it. He's your ninth inning guy. You in the playoffs, especially, you put your best reliever in the biggest moment. They were up 3-1, runners on second and first. George Springer, who is a postseason demon. Why the hell did you put who was pitching against him? Was it I don't was it Bizardo? It might have been.
Might have been.
But nevertheless, they got Matt Brash, who's pretty good, Gabe Spear, Eduardo Bizardo, which I think he was the one that was pitching. If I'm mistaken, please correct me. Jose Farah, who they got from the Nationals. The thing about him is he has a great arm, but he's kind of wild, but the stuff is there. And they traded Henry Ford for him. Now, in my opinion, I would have loved Henry Ford on the Phillies to replace JT, to where I think they could have got more for him, but that's in the sense of everyone knew they had to trade him because Cal Riley's going to be catching, and they just signed Mitch Garver to not a minor league deal, a major league deal, so he's going to be the backup. And then they got Carlos Vargas, Emerson Hancock, legend Emerson Hancock, to where I think their bullpens are going to be great. But the thing about major league bullpens is they could look good going into the season. They could be terrible. And then you could also revamp the bullpen at the trade deadline. And we know the Mariners have one of the best farm systems in baseball to where they legit have everything going for them. They would spend just a little bit more, but we'll get into that in the salary cap episode because I want to do that because holy crap, we're heading towards a lockout. But that's
And
for
I got to point out before we go
yeah.
into the lineup, before we get into the lineup, this is the first time that you've known everybody in the bullpen. So if that kind of goes into know it saying anything about how good this bullpen really is,
I think the Mariners I know, obviously the Phillies. I know everyone in the Mets bullpen to where, but everything else is kind of, it's very hard, even though we're baseball maniacs. The bullpen is so fickle to where you could put Ryan Baxter as a name in the bullpen, like, that makes sense. He's a little crafty lefty. But going into their catching, Cal Riley, obviously coming off an MVP top two finish. I don't think he's going to have the year he had last year, but he's still going to be very, very effective. Mitch Garver just re-signed. That was a sneaky signing that I like, and he fits the Mariners culture. Josh Naylor, first base, they re-signed him. We said one of the best moves of the offseason for not only the player because he mixed well with the team, 5 years, $95 million for a guy that plays decent enough defense and is a bat-to-ball guy, and we've seen bat-to-ball guys produce in the playoffs. So I love that for Josh Naylor. Second base, Brendan Donovan, one of the most underrated pickups at the trade deadline. Again, would have loved him in Philadelphia because the thing about Brendan Donovan is he's just such a damn good baseball player. Puts bat to ball, always going to have an 800, 790 OPS, is versatile in the infield. He could play short, he could play second, he could play the outfield, to where that's a great pickup for the Mariners. Um, they also got Cole Young listed at second. Is he going to be Cole? Let me see who they got at shortstop because I know they got J.P. Crawford, but Cole Young's one of their best prospects, right?
yeah, they have another one I think down there as
Let me
well.
see. Because they got got so many people listed so many different positions. I see Cole Emerson. Is he the other guy?
Cole Emerson, yeah, Cole Emerson, I think is the other guy I'm thinking of. Let me go ahead and Google Seattle's farm system real quick.
Yeah, because I know they got Crawford at shortstop to where he's good, like he's going to make the plays, but he's more of a defensive second baseman to where they have a lot of depth to where if their prospects are ready, you could just say goodbye to JP Crawford. Philadelphia Phillies legend JP Crawford. So they got a lot of depth
Yes,
in the
Yes, Colt Emerson is their top prospect, so he would
Gotcha.
probably take over shortstop role if, JP were to get out of there, and if I could say so myself, when I get into the Angels, when I bitch about the Angels, their number 2 prospect is Cade Anderson, but I'll get more into that when we get into the Angels, so
Yeah.
let's continue with Seattle real quick, though.
Yep. And then left field, Randy Arozarena, who I think is a really good player, but he doesn't have such a high ceiling in the sense of like he's going to play decent enough defense. If he gets you to an 800 OPS for what he's on with his contract, he's a very good player. He's a playoff riser, except for last year. He didn't really have the postseason we thought he was going to have. I think that could change this year when they eventually get there. But he's a good left fielder. Rob Refschneider is going to be the platoon player, I believe whenever he plays against left-handed pitching. Rob Refschneider just mashes against lefties. So that was a very good pickup. Center field, my AL MVP favorite, Julio Rodriguez. If he just puts it together April and May, he's going to win the MVP because he's one of the best defensive center fielders in baseball. And center field, the position in Major League Baseball, sucks right now. Like, if you get a defensive guru in center, that is a win. Julio Rodriguez has the upside with the bat to be an MVP caliber player with his defense and with his bat. So I'm very excited to see. They also got Victor Robles, still kicking it. Washington Nationals, former legend. Also, like attacked someone with a bat, I believe, in the minor leagues where he got suspended. Like he threw the bat.
Yes, yes, he did, I remember that.
Jesus God, dude, like relax. My God, take
It's just
something.
a game.
Dominic Calzone's still there. Luke Raley, Rays legend. And then designated hitter is going to be a mix of Snyder, Calzone, and Raley. So the thing about the Mariners is they got a lot of depth, and it makes sense with their organization. And they don't spend too much money, but they're not like the bottom feeders to where if Seattle would just make a couple more moves, I get it, the ownership is kind of iffy. They could really take this whole game of baseball over. And like I said, I got them winning the AL West by a landslide. Let me know your thoughts on the Mariners, Ryan.
Yeah, to be completely honest, they have a top 5 rotation in baseball, and it's arguably the best when it's healthy. And then you already talked about the bullpen, so there's, I mean, I love Spire coming out of there. I love Andres Munoz. He's always like when the Mariners weren't on the cusp of being great, he was always one of those guys that was thrown around as where's Andres Munoz gonna end up? Where are the Mariners gonna ship him off to? So you obviously know how good he could be. He was probably on the Phillies list of guys to get for a while before you guys went ahead and got Duran. And if he wasn't on their list, he was on your personal list.
Oh yeah, I was especially after the 24 off season. I was like, let's do a Bomer for Munoz trade straight up. People in the comments were like, absolutely not. I'm like, now look how that's turned out. Don't we love Alec Bohm at third base for the 8th straight year? Probably 5th. I don't know. Numbers are silly, but yeah, the Mariners are going to be a very good baseball team. And that farm system, like you said, they're not going to trade Cade Anderson because he's the future of their
Oh God,
rotation.
no.
But they're so deep to where if they need to make an addition at the trade deadline, they are going to do that. To where they just have everything. This is the Mariners' year. Me personally, I think it's also the Tigers' year. If they match up in the ALCS, which I predicted, that's going to be an ALCS of all time. We saw what the division series was like. Game 5, 18 innings, one way or the other, anything could have gone. So I'm very excited to watch some Seattle Mariners baseball. But let's get into my second team in the AL West, the Houston Astros. The cheaters, the fan bases, it sucks, all of it, but whatever. We're not going to get into that tangent. They have a really good organization. Their rotation, led by Hunter Brown, absolute stud. But after him, it gets kind of shaky. You got Brandon Walter, Jason Alexander, Spencer Arrighetti, Lance McCullers Jr., who can never stay healthy, but he's like
I
always.
didn't think he was still active.
Well, here's why he can't stay healthy. All he does is throw freaking off-speed pitches. Like, that was genuinely insane in the World Series. They were like, yeah, he hadn't thrown a fastball to a left-handed hitter the entire postseason. So Bryce Harper comes up and is like, well, obviously I'm going to sit on a hanging slider. Lightning strikes, 2-0 Phils. Great moment, but they won the World Series. I don't think about it at all. Christian Javier, really good pitcher, but he's had dealt with injuries to where you don't know what you're kind of getting with him. And then Tatsumi Imai. I have no idea what he's going to be like because the Japanese market this offseason was so interesting because the contract predictions you and me both had and the MLB reporters had were completely off. Murakami got 2 years. Isami Imai, sorry for botching the name. I'm English. Um, he got 3 years, but with a bunch of opt-outs to where I don't really know how he's going to perform. But even if he's a mid-tier rotation guy, for what they're paying him, it makes sense to where, see if there's anyone else. Jesus Christ, their rotation. They got 11 guys listed. Nate
Dude, like
Pearson.
all of them could start.
Yeah, not the Red Sox. Ryan
Ooh.
West, Miguel Ulua, AJ Blauberg, Colton Gordon, Mike Burrows. No idea who those guys are, but if they're listed in the depth chart of the rotation, they have to have some sort of upside to where that's basically the story of the Astros rotation. Obviously, Hunter Brown is an ace. He's one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. But after the number one, it gets kind of shaky to where we're just going to see how it matches up. It is nowhere near the Mariners to where that's why I have him second, but their bullpen's pretty damn good. Josh Hader coming off an injury, but Josh Hader's healthy. He, again, is one of the best closers in Major League Baseball. Brian Abreu, dog. Brian King, Steven Okert, Bennett Sosa, Enel De Los Santos. I think that's a former Phil. K. Wee
That name
Tang.
sounds familiar.
K. Wee Tang. Yeah, no idea who that is. My fault. Um,
Sick name.
Roddery Munoz and Jaden Murray, to where I know the top three, same thing with the bullpen. They look good going in, but we have no idea what's going on. But going to the season, I think their bullpen's pretty legit if they stay healthy. Catcher, Yaner Diaz, okay. Christian Walker at first base is going to be very interesting because he struggled mightily in Houston, but he always gives you great defensive value to where if he can just hit at a league average rate, I know he's making $20 million. He still is one of the best defensive first basemen in baseball to where you're going to get your bang for your buck. So I'm very excited to see what he does. Second base, Jose Altuve. I don't like him at all. Whatever. Shortstop is going to be Jeremy Pena, who had a phenomenal year last year, and he plays a great defensive shortstop. And then you got Carlos Correa at third. I think that was a great pickup because obviously the Twins were eating so much of that money. Goes back to the point of the salary cap. These small market teams, they make these contracts, and then 2-3 years later, they're in the hole to where they're like, let's ship him off. And then a team like Houston that's willing to pay under market value for Carlos Correa can bring him in. And then Isaac Paredes. I know they were trying to trade him because obviously you can't have 5 infielders for 4 spots, but I think he provides that depth for the Astros to where obviously most likely one of those guys is going to go down. Correa has injury history, Altuve has injury history, Walker has injury history. So their infield is loaded to where I think they're going to be really good on the offensive side. Left field, well, they got Yordan Alvarez listed as their left fielder, but I think he's going to DH. If Yordan Alvarez stays healthy, he's one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball. He is a legit problem. They also got Altuve listed as left because he played a little bit last year. Taylor Trammell, Jose Luberdo, Zach Cole, Zach Denzero. They got too many guys freaking listed. This is ridiculous. I need to have a gripe with Major League, MLB.com. Jake Myers in center field sucks. He plays a good defensive, but he can't hit it all. But like I said, the center field position, if you have a gold glove defensive center fielder out there, that's a win. And then right field, Cam Smith, who had a really good start to the year. He was the main pickup in the Kyle Tucker trade. I don't know what we're going to see from him because the thing about minor league players, most of them that have the prospect hype like a Cam Smith, they've never struggled at any level until the majors. So we're going to really see what Cam Smith is made out of this year. But I think he's a really good player. So I'm very high on Cam Smith. Designated hitter is going to be a mix of Alvarez, Paredes, Altuve, Diaz, to where I think the lineup is very good. The rotation's iffy. I think the bullpen's good to where I just think the Astros are such a good organization to where they're going to sneak into that final wild card spot because I can't imagine they miss the playoffs back-to-back years. But what do you think about the Astros, Ryan?
They're always one of those teams that's going to be consistent whether you like them or not. They're going to perform and they're going to be at the top of the American League. Now, you did talk about the pitching a little bit, and losing a guy like Framber is definitely going to hurt them. But like you said, Hunter Brown, dog. I had no idea that Lance McCullers was even still active in Major League Baseball. I thought the injuries took him out. And I am a huge fan of Tatsuya Imai. I think he's going to come in and be their ace. I don't dislike Hunter Brown in any way, shape, or form, but I think this guy's going to come in and take over. And then going off with what you said about, Correa and Altuve, Walker, Jordan, those guys are injury prone. They're also getting older. That's the thing. These guys are in their 30s now. Correa's going to be in his mid 30s. Jose Altuve is old for baseball standards. Christian Walker's probably, I think, 35, 36 now.
Yeah,
And Jordan is 32, I think, 31
I
perhaps.
think so. Yeah.
So these guys are all getting up into that age of where this is where, like, especially Jordan, he's at that point where it's like, these are the glory years. Let's get what we can out of them now, and then we have to move on and plan for the future. The Astros have kind of planned for the future in a sense. Bryce Williams is supposed to come up and take over second base. Jeremy Pena is still young. I am very high on Cam Smith personally, but the age, the injury concerns, and the lack of real starting pitching depth, even though you just listed like 12 guys. Like, I know Christian Javier, I know Hunter Brown, I know Lance McCullers, I know Imai. That's enough to get him into a wild card round. That's enough to maybe get him into. I have him in third place on mine, but I don't know if it's going to get him to the point to where the Astros are that feared team that they were when you and I were in high school.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're at that level, but like I said, if they can get in and that's every major league team. It really depends on what your starting pitching is doing at the time. Because we saw the Los Angeles Dodgers. Their starting rotation was depleted April through September. And then in October, they're like, screw it, dude. Let's just pitch shutty ball against the Phillies. Let's dominate the Brewers. Let's have Yamamoto pitch back-to-back days. Obviously not at that level with the Astros, but starting pitching wins in October. So yeah, I got the Astros sneaking in. And then let's go to my third place team. Now, me personally, these teams I don't have making the playoffs 3, 4, 5. Ryan is going to get into his point on the Athletics of his sleeper team, which I don't hate because I posted a video on this page about how the Las Vegas Athletics will be taking over baseball, not the Sacramento Athletics, but they have a very promising career. But I got the Rangers third. And the funny thing about the Rangers is they had the lowest starting pitching ERA last year and they still missed the playoffs. The ballpark in Texas does not play well to hitters. Like, it's huge, and they had a humidifier, I believe, to where, like, it obviously keeps the stadium cool, even though it's indoors, but it affects the hitters for some reason. So the problem last year was their bats, not their rotation, because I think their rotation's still going to be very good. Nathan Eovaldi, Boston Red Sox legend, he was dominant. He had a sub-2 ERA, but he had injury concerns, to where if he was healthy, he probably would have won the Cy Young. Jacob deGrom is still one of the best pitchers in baseball. It's just about health. So if he can stay healthy, he's going to give you a 2.5 ERA. He's not going to throw the 100, 101 anymore, but he's been dotting 95, 96, and that's still very effective. Mackenzie Gore, the pitcher they just picked up from Washington, I think he's going to finally break out because he's always been a good pitcher, but still floating around a 4 ERA. Now, of course, there were some blow-up starts where it inflates the ERA, but now Mackenzie Gore doesn't have to be the ace of the rotation anymore like he was in Washington. So he can settle in, be the 3 guy, and just freaking dominate. I love that trade because they didn't give up anything big for him. They gave up a bunch of prospects, but they always do this trade to where it looks big, like a big package, but it's like 5, 6 guys that are not top 10, top 5 prospects, to where it just goes into the sense of like, would you rather give up one of your number 1 or 2 or a bunch of back end guys? Me personally, I'd give a bunch of back end guys. So I think they're going to win that trade seamlessly. Jack Leiter, is he ever going to be what we thought he was going to be? No idea, because I thought going into his major league career, based on what he did at Vandy, he just kind of had that makeup. His dad, Al Leiter, was a very effective pitcher in Major League Baseball, to where the players of former big leaguers, I think, have a leg up because they've been around the big league clubhouse their entire lives, just like Justin Crawford with Carl Crawford. So I'm very excited to see. I just, based on his last few years, I don't see it, but he doesn't have to be a top rotation guy. If he's a 4-5 and he's healthy, that's still very effective. Kumar Rocker, kind of the same thing. You're a big Kumar Rocker guy. I don't know. I think the injury concern is just too much, to where he's already had TJ. He missed a couple years. I don't know with him. And Jordan Montgomery just re-signed with the Rangers. I think that's
Yes, he
going to be
did.
a very good pickup because obviously in Arizona it was a freaking disaster. But Jordan Montgomery going to a place where he had a lot of success in that postseason run, and again, as your fifth, sixth starter, he doesn't have to eat 200 innings for you. He can do 80, 100, 120. They can kind of be easy with him because if he's ready by playoff time, that's what you're signing Jordan Montgomery for. So I really like their rotation. Bullpen, Robert Garcia, Tyler Alexander, Alexis Diaz, not Edwin Diaz, the brother that sucks at pitching. But he was really good with Cincinnati for like those couple of years, but he just lost it. But taking a flyer
Couple
on
of
him, I think
years,
is a
man, a couple of years. He had like 3 good months.
eh,
Like, let let's not act like he was gonna like, he was taking over Major League Baseball. He was consistent for a time when they could have been contending and then shit the bed.
yeah, it is a good 1-year flyer though. I think if you have the last name Diaz, if you're a brother of Edwin Diaz, there's got to be something in there, right? But
Mm,
nevertheless,
think.
I don't think he's going to be picking up any big innings for them. Jacob Junis, I really like. Chris Martin, Jacob Latz, Cole Winn, Luis Corvero, Carton Balmer. So I don't know many of these names to where we're just going to have to see with the bullpen. If anyone comes on and says this bullpen is going to be absolutely legit, whether it's any Major League Baseball team, they're lying to you because they don't know. There's certain guys in a bullpen, like for the Phillies, Duran, well, really just Duran. Brad Keller was good last year, but we don't know. There's very few sure things in Major League Baseball when it comes to the bullpen. So us making any legit predictions, I think would be blasphemy. We have no idea. And then their lineup. So catching Kyle Higashioka, I know I botched that name. Danny
Yankee
Gant.
legend.
I know both of them to where I think this is a pretty good catching duo. Like they just DFA'd Jonah Heim, and he was terrible. Like
Where did he just get picked up too? Someone just picked him
Jonah
up.
Heim. I think it was Atlanta.
Yes, it was Atlanta.
Yeah, he sucks. But their catching position, not bad. First base, Jake Berger. Interesting guy. Like sometimes he could tap into his power, but he could also just go for like 2-3 months to where he just strikes out like he did last year because he actually got sent down to the minor leagues. So I have no idea, but he's not making too much money to where we'll see what he is. Second base, they got Josh Smith. Okay. Third base,
Cool.
Josh Young. Okay. So many of these guys peaked in 2023, just like Jonah Heim. And of course, they won the World Series, so it makes sense to where after that, everyone just kind of fell off the face of the map, which I think is good for Rangers fans in this coming year because they've had a couple of down years. The trends, maybe they go back, not to what they were in 23, but some version or some sediment of that player. And then shortstop Corey Seager, still one of the best shortstops in Major League Baseball. His thing is health, but here's the thing about Corey Seager. The Rangers get to the playoffs and he's healthy. There's your $30 million right there. There's your $300 million contract because he's going to show up when it matters most. He did that in 23. He did it with the Dodgers to where Corey Seager, when they had him on the trade block, I was like, are you out of your freaking mind? Like, do you realize how scarce the shortstop position is in Major League Baseball to where there's no reason, even if he only plays 100 games, he's still worth that contract for the production he has in those 100 games. They got I think Wyatt Langford's going to play center field for them. Had a great year last
Maybe.
year, so he's pretty good. Left field, they got Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo, I despise because he was a Met. He's a dork. The way he runs to first base after a walk is just stupid. Like nobody freaking cares. But Brandon Nimmo can still hit the baseball. He had a 750 OPS last year in that range. His power went up. He has this, I think, injury to where it just came upon him to where he can't really run anymore. That's why they moved him to left field. And he still sucks in left field because Brandon Nimmo used to be a really good defensive center fielder. So I actually like that trade for the Rangers getting off of Simeon. And I know Simeon and Seager had some beef, which is so weird because they both seem like just two great guys. So I like that trade. Evan Carter's going to be in the mix. Evan Carter had a great month and then into the playoffs where we thought he was going to be the next big thing. Injury riddled seasons last 2 years to where maybe he comes back to that prospect everyone thought he was going to be. I have no idea. I think you're high on Evan Carter, right?
Yeah, I like him. I honestly like this Rangers outfield itself. Replacing Adolis Garcia with Brandon Nimmo is a massive W for the Rangers. And that's no disrespect to Adolis. I just think Brandon Nimmo makes a bit more of an impact for them than Adolis would.
Yeah, I mean, I think Adolis Garcia is going to have a monster breakout year or comeback year. One, because he's getting out of Texas, change of scenery guy. And that ballpark that played big in Arlington is not going to play big at CBP, to where I'm super excited for Adolis Garcia, but it makes sense for them to kind of let him go. And like I said, Brandon Nimmo has a much higher upside with his offensive production than Adolis Garcia. And then they got Jock Peterson rounding it out at DH. I think Jock Peterson, dude, he was really not last year. Last year was unbelievable, but I think he's a prime candidate for a bounce back year. And if he just hits against righties and he's your DH, I think he's going to have a really good year. And Jock Peterson is made for the playoffs. Jocktober is a real thing, to where just get there. He's not going to bat sub 200 this year. He might, and I might look like an idiot. Maybe Jock Peterson is just cooked. I think you believe that. But I
I
like
do.
Jock Peterson. I think he is a good hitter. Last year didn't happen. It did happen. But overall, I think the Rangers are going to be a team that their offensive production will determine their success. Because I think their rotation is still going to be good last year, or this year, and it was really good last year, and they still didn't make the playoffs. So can they stay healthy? Can they get some bounce back years? We're going to see. But give me your thoughts on the Texas Rangers before we get into your beloved Las Vegas Athletics, Sacramento.
Ye Yeah, so before we get into the Oakland, Las Vegas, Sacramento Athletics, you got them finishing 3rd, and it's all based on their offense. I got them finishing 4th, and it's all based on their offense. And it's solely because, honestly, I'm not that big of a fan of what they're doing with Jake Berger. I don't know what they're doing at second base. They got to replace Marcus Semien. The only consistent guy there is Corey Seager. I like Josh Young. His brother's better, but I like him. There's really nothing wrong with him. Their strength is the outfield. And it's like I said, they just replaced Garcia with Nimmo. I like that for them. I think it's a little bit easier for Brandon Nimmo to lead those young guys. We're going to see if he can be a leader. Maybe Wyatt Langford steps up and becomes that leader. Evan Carter is due for a bounce back year. He could be everything that we thought he was going to be, because if Brandon Nimmo could still run, the corner outfields of Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter could feed families in Texas for literal years. And the rotation thing, Jack Leiter needs to learn from Eovaldi, and he needs to learn from DeGrom, because both of those guys have injury concerns in their careers as well, and they were able to bounce back and be two of the best pitchers in their respective leagues when the time needed to be. I'm not high on Jack Leiter anymore. His last couple of performances, whether it's minor league stuff or major league stuff, just he hasn't been what he was supposed to be. I'm disappointed that I'm not high on the Rangers, because I like watching that team be good. Any Texas fan base for a sports team and they're in a championship thing, it's always electric. It's always a really fun time to be around. Texas knows how to party, but they're not going to be able to do so with the Rangers until they make some serious moves in that infield, but also maintaining Corey Seager.
Yeah. And before I get into the Athletics, last night, it was Sunday night, right? Perfect time to willow in self-pity. So I was just thinking about the Diamondbacks, because that seems to be the trend. One, I still can't believe we lost to the freaking Diamondbacks. Unreal, should not have happened. But I was just thinking about Texas. That Phillies-Rangers World Series would have fed families.
Oh,
Adolis
man.
Garcia hitting moonshots, Corey Seager. The Phillies at that time, before they ran into the Diamondbacks, their offense was electric. Turner, Harper, Schwarber. That would have gone 7 games, and we got deprived of that. It's like, at some point, Major League Baseball should have stepped in and made some adjustments in what was going on. Like, they should have stopped what the Diamondbacks were doing.
Well, actually, that's a funny thing, because I heard a story recently from a former Major League Baseball player named Dee Gordon.
Yeah.
Remember when he won the batting title?
Yeah.
Remember the year after he got suspended 80 games for PEDs?
Yeah.
He went on a podcast recently and told this story about MLB told him not to win the batting title because there was a guy who won MVP that year. And if Dee Gordon didn't win the batting title, this specific player would have won the Triple Crown that year. Would you like to know who that player is?
Yeah.
Beloved Philadelphia Phillies first baseman Bryce Harper.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
When Dee Gordon won the batting title, that was Bryce Harper's first MVP season, and he beat him by a couple of points in the batting average. And then, coincidentally enough, Dee Gordon, who's 160 pounds soaking wet, tests positive for PEDs and is out for 80 games.
Well, maybe he should have just listened to Major League Baseball. No bias at all, Bryce Harper over there. But it does show you to where you can. I don't think sports are scripted. I think in a way they are in certain sports to kind of try to get a narrative, but then again, you can't control what happens on the field. I think baseball is the one sport where that never happens because one genuinely you really can't control baseball because that game is so fickle to where if MLB had a decision on who's going to be in the World Series, I tell you what, it wouldn't be the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. It would have been the Rangers and the Phillies to where that I think helps the purity of baseball. Of course,
It wouldn't have even been the Rangers.
yeah. Well, the Rangers were kind of fun. Like Texas is a big one.
Yeah, they were, but like, be honest. If you're picking an American League team and you have your option of the Houston Astros, the New York Yankees, the Boston Red Sox, or the Texas Rangers, you're eliminating the Rangers first.
Yes. Yes. So then it goes to your point. Yes. So Major League Baseball does not control the narrative. Thank God. But would have been nice for them to do it 1 year. But let's get into the Athletics. And I'm going to steamroll through this because you obviously have much more information on them. They're your sleeper team. So I'll let you get into that after I go through their rotation and everything. Luis Severino sucks. But he did have a really good road ERA, and he complains about Sacramento so much. I get it. It's a minor league ballpark. Still, dude, you can't have a 5 ERA when you're paid like an ace for them. Jeffrey Springs, very sneaky pickup. And if he stays healthy, he's going to be very good. Aaron Savali sucks, but he could be your 5 guy, whatever. Jacob Lopez, JT Ginn, Luis Morales, Mason Bennett, Jake Perkins, all fringe guys to where I personally think their rotation is what's going to lead to them not being in the postseason, but I do like their lineup. And let's roll through their bullpen because I know very little of these guys. Elvis Alvarado, no idea. Justin Steerner, no idea. Michael Kelly, no idea. Ben Bowden, no idea. Mark Leiter Jr., I do know who that is. He sucks, but I know him. Tyler Ferguson, Scott Barlow, underrated. Hogan Harris, I would destroy in MLB The Show anytime it was time to face up against the Athletics. So that's fun. Joey Estes, I think he's the guy that's one of the biggest crybabies in Major League Baseball when he's on the mound, not only to the other team, but to his own teammates. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's that guy. Brady Basso, no idea. And let's get into their lineup, who I know, and I know Ryan knows. Catcher, Shane Langya-Gears. He's really good. Like, his power is legit. I'm not sure about his defensive side, but when you're hitting the ball like he does, it doesn't really matter what you bring to the defensive side of the baseball. First base, Nick Kurtz, legitimately could win MVP. Like, he is one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball. Also, he grew up being a Philadelphia Phillies fan, so when eventually his contract runs up, Philly, bring him home.
Boston bound.
Jeff McNeil, hate him, like genuinely despise Jeff McNeil. However, I do think it was a good pickup because they're not paying like anything on him. I think the Mets sent over some money to where he's only making like 5-6 against their payroll. And Jeff McNeil, for as much as I don't like him as a human being, he can put bat to ball, play decent enough defense at second base to where I think he does fit the loss of the Sacramento Athletics. Third base, Max Muncy, not the good Muncy, but he's fine, I guess. Shortstop, Jacob Wilson, one of my favorite players because he does not walk. And me personally, when I would hit, now granted, I never made it past high school baseball and even struggled in high school baseball. Sometimes it was hard, but I would never walk as well because I wanted to swing the bat. And Jacob Wilson is the epitome of that to where he'll have like a 330 average, but an 800 OPS because he's simply not walking. If he can walk a little bit, and kind of like pick his spots a little bit better, I think he can go to a really good shortstop to elite. So I really like Jacob Wilson. And we know who's coming in at shortstop in 3 to 4 years when they get to Las Vegas. Leo DeViras, and you're going to talk about him. It's crazy because everyone says the Athletics fleeced the Padres, and they did. But also Mason Miller still is a really good pitcher to where, yeah.
My whole thing about that is I don't like calling it a fleece job for prospects because they're not sure things.
Yeah.
Like prospects, they like yeah they could play really really well, then boom they get hurt or boom criminal, stuff like that. Like we see stuff like that unfortunately all the time. But I think Leo DeVries is up next, and if Jacob Wilson doesn't even leave, who's to say that when Jeff McNeil's old ass doesn't retire, you can move one of the lesser fielders of the two to that second base spot, and then you have the nastiest middle infield in baseball.
Dude, Las Vegas is going to be a show. And get this, if Dave Dombrowski's still with his organization next year, I think there's a real chance that Bryce Harper finishes his career with the Las Vegas Athletics. He's from there. It would make sense in the story. Bringing a guy with that kind of pedigree with those young guys, I don't want to see it happen, but let's not act crazy to where it can't happen. And let's get into the outfield real quick before you get into it. Brent Rooker, left field, Tyler Soderstrom. They're going to mix between DH. I like Tyler Soderstrom. I really like Brent Rooker. I loved his interview about the salary cap. Now, I don't want to get too much into that, but we're going to do a whole video on why I think there shouldn't be a salary cap. Ryan, I'm not sure your opinion on that, but Brent Rooker basically said a salary cap should be implemented, or it shouldn't be implemented because it doesn't help parity. It only helps the owners have controlled fixed costs to raise their value of their organization when they eventually sell it. We'll get into that another day. Jeff McNeil can also play a little bit of outfield. He is versatile in that sense. Center field, Denzel Clark, one of the best defensive center fielders. Can he put it together with the bat? But again, if you have a great defensive center fielder, you're already ahead in the game. And then right field, Lawrence Butler, who had a bit of a down year last year, but I think there's superstar written on him based on the way he talks in the interviews, his confidence level. He's the type of guy, if he gets out of Sacramento, not leaving the A's, but going to Las Vegas, all the spotlight on him, I can see him taking the next step to being one of the best players in Major League Baseball. And then DH is going to be a mix of Rooker, Butler, all those kind of guys. So I really like the A's offense. I just don't like their pitching. But Ryan, get into your beloved Sacramento A's.
The only reason that I would be down on the A's would be the pitching, but that kind of goes into their farm system if you look at it, because when you look at guys that aren't Leo DeVries, they just drafted a kid named Jamie Arnold out of Florida State, who was probably the best left-handed pitcher in that draft, not named Cade Anderson. And if you really need to move these guys, you can absolutely move these guys. You just said you'd rather move a bunch of back-end prospects for a big star anyway. What they're chock full of is back-end prospects. So you're not going to go out and get a Skubal, but you could go out and get a Joe Ryan, or like you could go out and get somebody on the caliber of Freddie Peralta along those lines, but you just have to go out there and look. But the meat and potatoes of this all comes from their lineup, and their lineup is fun. Their lineup is young, and their lineup is ready to prove that the Athletics don't suck anymore. Nick Kurtz does have potential to be an MVP caliber player. He might even get top 3 votes this year if he has even a glimmer of the season that he had in his rookie season. He's projected to hit 35 home runs this upcoming season, and if he even gets 30, I'd give him an MVP vote. I could go on for hours about Shea Langoliers. Tyler Soderstrom actually got kicked to the outfield because he was also a catcher prospect, but Shea Langoliers was that much better than him at catcher. They were like, nope, you go out there. Both of those guys are massive power bats that could hit the ball 440 when they barrel it, and if they can get a consistent time frame going, if he gets consistent time behind the plate, and if Soderstrom doesn't fall victim to that crowded outfield that they all of a sudden have out there, these are guys that could get over 500 at bats, and these are guys that could get 30 to 40 home runs a year. Brent Rooker is somebody who could obviously get, and I think he could get MVP votes, to be completely honest. It's kind of weird to see DHs get MVP votes, but we saw it with JD Martinez when he was in Boston in 2018, that magical season. And then even then, Kyle Schwarber got MVP votes. He was a designated hitter all last season.
He was number
And
2.
so it's not out of the question that a DH can win MVP. It's become extremely valuable in today's game now because everybody does it. And a guy like Brent Rooker being your everyday DH is an absolute steal. And he's also a little bit older, so he's got a couple of more years left under him before he starts to fizzle a little bit. But that's where him and a guy like Jeff McNeil could come in and wrangle in some of these young guys like Jacob Wilson, Denzel Clark. They could turn a guy like Lawrence Butler around and get his swing right. Because Jeff McNeil was a solid hitter for a really long time when he was in New York. You may not like that, but it is true. He did hit about 300 for a couple of years in a row there. Was a starting all-star in the All-Star game as well for the Mets, if I do remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe so.
But either way, it really just comes down to their pitching. I don't think Luis Severino is terrible. I think he's average. I don't think he's an ace. That's the only problem here. I think the only reason that you say that Luis Severino sucks right now is because he just so happens to be in an ace role. If you looked at Luis Severino and he was like a 4 or a 5 guy, pushing maybe a 3 guy, you would probably say he's halfway decent to an average pitcher. But considering the circumstances that he's in, he's got to be the ace. But it's not something that he's not used to either. He wasn't horrible with the Yankees. Well, at the end of it, he was. But when he first got up there, he wasn't bad at all. Like you said, Jeffrey Springs is very, very sneaky and very, very good. I think he was a demon when he was with Tampa Bay, and he can continue that demonism when he gets out here. They have a couple MLB ready guys in the minor league system right now. Braden Nett didn't really work out too fantastically yet, but even behind him, a guy like Henry Baez and then a guy like Gage Jump. These are all guys that are like boom, 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 right behind each other in that farm system there. The future is there, which is why I understand why you're saying the Las Vegas Athletics are going to take over. But I'm on the boat of why can't they be the Cinderella team? Because this team is young and ready. They want to show that they don't need Las Vegas to be great. They can be great without having all this. Ooh, look at our new stadium. Look at all these new features that we have. Look at this new guy that we signed that's going to make us that much better. You can do that when you get there. This is where you prove it. This is the year where you go out and be like, Las Vegas will bring home a World Series championship before the state of New York, before the state of California, before the state of Pennsylvania,
Let's
before the
not get
state
crazy.
before the state of Massachusetts. You know, it could be that way. Is it going to be that way this year? Absolutely not. But I do agree with you that the Las Vegas Athletics will run baseball, and I think the Sacramento, Las Vegas, Oakland Athletics this year are going to surprise baseball.
I would love that. Like, give me a wild card athletics run to where they play playoff games in that stadium, because that would be a fun watch. And I'm very excited to see their kind of baseball. Now let's get into a team that has no shot in hell at doing anything. And Artie Moreno, I genuinely feel awful for Angels fans, because he came out, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, and said winning was not a top 5 fan experience like importance. Are you out of your freaking mind?
Get
Like,
the hell out of here.
it just kills me when these billionaires like would have all this money, how like, what's the word, disassociated they are from the natural public. They just don't have any freaking idea, because Kevin Pillar talked about this on Foul Territory, because he played with the Angels. There is no better place to play Major League Baseball than in Los Angeles, maybe with the Dodgers, but the Angels have a beautiful stadium. It's Los Angeles, to where if they had any competence of running an organization, they would be a premier destination, to where he needs to sell the team. Because I think, because remember when the Dodgers, back before they got with all their new owners now, they were like, they had a really bad owner. Like, he was filed for bankruptcy. Like, there was talk about the Dodgers being one of the cheapest teams in baseball. That's essentially where the Los Angeles Angels are right now, to where if they can get a new guy in for Los Angeles, they could turn around this franchise. Because it's not that they're not willing to spend money. Like, I will give Artie Moreno credit in that sense. His payroll is still pretty high, but who are you signing? Anthony Rendon, Josh Hamilton, CJ Wilson, giving Albert Pujols a 10-year deal when most likely he wasn't that age. We're not going to get into that whole controversy, but Albert Pujols lied about his age, to where just get a guy in there that's not only willing to spend the money, but spend the money on the right players and then reinvest it into the development system. Because everyone knows the Dodgers spend so much money. They gave Kyle Tucker $60 million a year, but they still have the best farm system, to where it's a combination. Then you see the dynasty. The Angels can get there if they have the right guy in charge, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I hope it does, because I would die. Like, the Athletics wildcard run, 10 times more for a Los Angeles Angels playoff run, like Angels in the Outfield Part 2. That would feed families. But let's get into this dumpster fire of a roster. You say Kikuchi, decent pitcher, but he's your ace, so that's a problem. Similar to what you said on Luis Severino. It's not the player, it's the role he's in. Jose Serrano, Reed Detmers, mid. Grayson Rodriguez, really good pickup if he stays healthy. Because essentially, you just traded 1 year of Taylor Ward. So I like that trade because of the upside you had. Taylor Ward was never going to re-sign with the Angels, so you had to get some value. And I like Grayson Rodriguez. It just depends if he stays healthy. K. Donna, Alex Manoah. I'm not a big Alex Manoah fan. I think his confidence, not more cockiness, when he was really good with the Blue Jays, and then he completely flatlined. And then the way he treated the organization, not reporting to AAA, like, who are you, dude? You had 2 good seasons, and now you want everyone to, like, feel bad about your comeback story or, like, get rejuvenated? Absolutely not. I don't like Alex Manoah. Their bullpen, Robert Stevenson, who has had 2 injury-riddled seasons, if he's going back to his Tampa Bay Rays form, is a really good reliever. And then, oh, good God, they're going to make the playoffs because they got Jordan Romano. That's crazy work. But I tell you what, if there's anyone that's going to have a comeback season, it's going to be Jordan Romano, just to spite Philadelphia Phillies fans. I like Jordan Romano as the person because the thing about him is, granted, he was terrible. He genuinely sucked, but he would always face the media and he legit apologized to us. So I'm like, all right, dude, at some point, you're just not good. But if he stays healthy and he gets back to even a semblance of his Toronto Blue Jays form, he could be a good reliever. Then the other guys, Ryan Zephyr, no idea. Drew Pomeranz, know him. Kirby Yates, interesting. I thought he was going to retire. If he stays
I
healthy,
also did.
yeah, if he stays healthy, he could be a good reliever. Jose Furman, Chase Silseth, interesting names. Hunter Strickland. The fact that Hunter Strickland is still throwing major league innings is genuinely insane.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy guy. Brent Suter, I like. Um, and then the other two, no idea. So let's get into their lineup. Their catching duo actually isn't bad. Logan O'Hoppe, the former Philadelphia Philly, he's not good defensively, but he's a good bat to where I think he makes up to where he's an average catcher. Travis d'Arnaud, mentoring Logan O'Hoppe was a really good signing for them. So I like Travis d'Arnaud. First base, Nolan Schanuel. He's just mid, but he's not bad mid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I remember when he first got like drafted and came up, they made this whole big deal because like he got drafted and then like a month later, the guy was already in the majors. And like the Angels have a history of doing that because I think they
Yeah.
did that with Neto too.
Yeah, it's not. Well, Neto worked out, but they almost did the same thing with Christian Moore, but he got hurt towards the end of the year he got drafted. It's not a smart move, guys. Like, we get it. You want to get these players up there, but they need time to develop.
It's kind of crazy to say this, but thank God Christian Moore got that injury.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't have fathomed what this damn organization would have done to this poor young amazing bat.
Well, here's the thing. They still might have called him up too early the year after because he didn't have a good year. Like, he wasn't terrible to where I still think there's hope for Christian Moore, but it goes back to the point. The organization is so terrible. Like, I get it. This is your new shiny toy from the draft. You want a fast riser, but you're not winning. Like, you're not in a competitive window, so it doesn't make any sense. Just let him get 500, 600 at bats in AAA to where once he's ready to go, then you get your star. So that's silly.
And that's the thing, like, and once you get through the rest of this lineup, I'm actually gonna go ahead and have a tiny little rant to end this episode about how the Angels will be in last place for the next 5 years, and it's solely based on how they've built their future.
And I agree on that. And then they also have a bunch of mix. Oswald Peraza, former Yankees top prospect.
Yankee legend.
God, he's a good defender. He just genuinely can't hit. Like, there's certain players you see, and if you watch them on like an everyday basis, like I do with Johan Rojas, there's nothing there. Like, you just know they're not good with the bat, and that's the same way with Oswaldo Peraza. Chris Taylor's still kicking it there, which is interesting. Like, riding out the sunset after he left the Dodgers. Vaughn Grisham, I like Vaughn Grisham. There's certain prospects I just like see, and I know I'm delusional. I think Vaughn Grisham, maybe if he gets everyday at bats, he could turn into something. I'm probably wrong.
Absolutely not.
Yohan Moncada's back, and he played well with the Angels, but it was in a very short sample size because he was injured. So
The biggest piece of the Chris Sale trade was Yohan Moncada.
again, prospects are prospects. Anthony Rendon is finally gone, so that is like a big black cloud lifted from the organization. Zach Neto at shortstop is a dog. I like Zach Neto. What's going to happen is he's going to leave Los Angeles when he's a free agent, and he's going to be the shortstop for the New York Yankees. Book it. Left field, Josh Lowe, Tampa Bay Rays legend. Joe Adell, I think he's going to mix between center and left. Who they got listed as center? Oh, they got Trout. If they put Mike Trout in center field, they are the dumbest organization ever. I get it. Mike Trout came to you and said, I want to play center field. Here's what you do as an organization. You tell him hell no. Because Mike Trout, if he's healthy, is still one of the best players in Major League Baseball. He's never healthy. So why on earth would you put him in the most demanding position in the outfield? I would even put him at DH. But 2 years ago, they traded for Jorge Soler to where, I don't know if you saw on the roster, but that made no sense because you're not going to stick Soler in the outfield to where you're clogging up the DH spot. And then again, Mike Trout gets injured. Again, the Angels organization is terrible. Back on Joe Adell. Joe Adell had a really good breakout year. I just think he's the guy to where he can have an 800 OPS or he can have a 650 OPS because he is a free swinger. He's got so much raw talent to where I just don't know what I'm going to get out of him. But when he's right, he's right. And then, yeah, outfield's going to be a mix of Trout, Adele, Josh Lowe. Jose Soler still on the team. Wow.
I think Soler is still on the team, yes.
Again, clogging up the DH spot for what? Like, yeah, I'm done ranting on the Angels. I feel bad for their fans because, again, they have great fans. But Ryan, go into your rant about the Los Angeles Angels.
So, I mean, the only good thing to look forward to about being an Angels fan is that you don't have to worry about Anthony Rendon stealing any more money from you guys. And even then, he's still being paid by you guys, but that doesn't matter anymore. You guys are about to be punished for every single bit of draft day money tampering that you have done. And this is not me taking a shot at their second overall pick, Tyler Bremner. But there is no way in hell that you could sit here and tell me that you're not going to take Cade Anderson, Seth Hernandez, Jamie Arnold, any of the arms that went after Tyler Bremner. Now, Tyler Bremner has a 65 grade changeup on his prospect stats. Now, anybody who knows anything about the prospect stats, anything from that 60 to 70 range, that's pretty elite. And so he's got something to build off of right there. But let's look at the other prospects in that thing. 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're all starting pitchers. But let's go ahead and look at those numbers for those who have played. Ryan Johnson. This is one of the guys that actually does have major league time. Pitched 14 and 2/3 innings and had a 7.36 ERA. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to George Clausen.
Former
He didn't
Phil.
see any. And even then, this is a guy with a massive power fastball as well as a 70 grade fastball. He had, what, 2 appearances? 1 appearance, maybe? 6 innings, 3 ERA? Not bad. It's only 1 appearance. And then when you look at his double A stuff, if you care about win losses, he went 4 and 12 with a 5.35 ERA. He had a 1.48 whip in double A. And then the only guy that I kind of like here is the pitcher that they drafted in the 3rd round of the 2025 draft, and his name is Johnny Slawinski, and he's 18-year-old, 6'3", very average as of right this very second, 55, 50 all the way through his prospect grades. That's the only guy I could genuinely see growing into something right now. Maybe you have something with Chase Shores because he's got that power fastball as well, but he needs to control it. But out of all that, pitcher, shortstop, pitcher, shortstop, outfield. Like, that's it. They don't have anything to build off of. They don't have anything to grow. They don't have anything to do. You better hope and pray to God that Ryan Johnson figures it out. You better hope and pray to God that Tyler Bremner lives up to that 2nd overall pick. And you better hope and pray to God that Johnny Slawinski is the steal of that draft, because the Los Angeles Angels are set to be what the Chicago Cubs were when we were children, what the Houston Astros were when we were in middle school, what the Colorado Rockies are now, what the White Sox just got over being. The Angels should be the worst team in baseball, and they absolutely deserve it. I feel bad for Mike Trout. He did choose this, though.
Yeah.
I feel bad for guys like Zach Neto. I feel bad for guys like Noah Shanuel. I feel bad for guys like Joe Adele. They didn't do it. All they do is go out and play baseball and try to be the best players that they can be. But when you got these jackasses like Artie Moreno making the decisions and not doing things from a baseball standpoint, but doing things from a showman standpoint, you're not going to win anything. You're not going to do anything. The Angels are destined to be the worst team in baseball for a long time. And don't be surprised if they're the first team in Major League Baseball history since like the 20s or even earlier than that to win less than 40 Major League Baseball games. I'm being so serious. This team is horrible. Alek Manoah is not a good pitcher. I only like Grayson Rodriguez in that rotation, honestly. I genuinely believe Kikuchi is not that great of a pitcher. I never liked him. I didn't think he was that great when he first came over.
I think he's fine. I think he's like a 4 ERA guy.
Yeah, but like even then,
Yeah.
regardless, he's gonna be a 6 ERA guy with the Angels. This team is not good. This team is the worst team in baseball. I don't care what you think about the Rockies. I don't care what you think about the White Sox or the Twins even. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim are going to be the worst team in baseball for the next 5 to 10 years, and they only have their general manager and owner to blame.
Yeah. I mean, if they get a new owner in there, it still would be a 5-year process because it will take a village to rebuild the Los Angeles Angels. So even if they did get Artie Moreno out of there, it's going to take a long time for them to rebuild. And it sucks because, like, when the Angels are good, baseball's good. Like, imagine the Dodgers and Angels having a legit rivalry. Now it's just the Dodgers coming to town. That's the Angels World Series. They beat them. They play well against the Dodgers in Anaheim, but it's like, all right, dude, like, the Dodgers don't give two craps about what's going on in June against your Los Angeles Angels. So I hope at some point they get a new owner in there and then they could start reshaping Angels baseball, but that probably won't happen. Before we end this episode, did you want to do an immaculate grid?
Sure, we could bang one out.
Perfect.
Let's go. Let's go check to see if this is. I'm kind of hoping. I know one of them's gonna be Phillies Sox, and then you and me are just gonna eat.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Ooh, this one actually looks pretty simple.
All right.
Let's go share the screen here, and boom.
All right.
So our topics for today: we need any shortstop in Dodger history. We need any player who hit 10 plus home runs in a season for the Dodgers. We need an all-star for the Dodgers. Same thing all the way down for the Guardians. And then somebody from the Negro Leagues.
Oh boy. Let's go shortstop Rafael Furcal. I feel like that's not going to be
4%.
okay.
Now for it could be any Dodger to have 10 home runs. They have had some mashers, but I'm automatically going to Andre Ethier here.
But I want to do something that's kind of like minimal, like someone wouldn't know.
Did Scott Van Slyke ever hit 10 home runs in a season?
That might be too risky. You want to do Chris Taylor?
Chris Taylor could work.
He's got to. I'm just trying to think
Yeah.
of players that are locks, but the percentages would be low.
Yeah, let me go ahead and lock that in then. So 10 plus home runs, Chris Taylor. 0.9%.
Let's go.
And then any all-star in the history of the Dodgers. Did Adrian Gonzalez make an all-star team with the Dodgers?
I think he did. What about Max Muncy? Was Max Muncy ever an all-star?
Yeah, but I got to be careful here. I got to pick the right Muncy.
Oh, God.
2015 to 2025. That's our Max Muncy. 1%.
Let's go.
Now, played shortstop for, Rocchio was probably the most recent one, but who was the guy that came in right after Frankie?
Ahmed Rosario.
Yes. I was thinking him or Jimenez.
Yeah.
I misspelled the shit out of that. Ahmed Rosario, 4%.
Okay.
Now, a 10 home run season for the Guardians. Now, we can go back to the Indians here, so keep that in mind. So we can pull out like Jason Kipnis if we have to.
Something.
But I got did Tyler Naquin ever do it?
Oh, I think so. Like 10 homers. Yeah, he's had to. Definitely.
He's had to have had 10 more, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Let's go!
0.4%. Let's go.
And now any all-star.
Let's do Andrew
I'm thinking
Miller.
Cookie Carrasco.
No, there's no way
Andrew Miller?
Carrasco made an all-star team.
Right, Andrew Miller it is.
Had to be.
2%.
Let's go.
Now we need a shortstop from the Negro Leagues. I mean, Jackie Robinson's the obvious one.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not.
So let me go ahead and try something because I'm thinking of a name. I'm going to go Martin Diego.
Okay.
He played a lot of positions, and I think shortstop was one of them. Yes, it was.
I'll yield to you in this category.
So now a 10 home run season. Josh Gibson is the home run king, so that's an obvious one right there. But I'm going to go ahead and try Rube Foster.
Interesting.
No! So how about Oscar Charleston then? Because I'm trying to keep it... Okay, Oscar Charleston works. And then to round things out, I guess we'll just go Satchel Paige.
Yeah. That's still pretty good.
That makes me sad.
Yeah. I mean, with all the low percentage we got on the other areas, I think we did pretty well.
Yeah, so let's see what the more... So let's see... Wow, 500 shortstops I could have picked from.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense.
And there were... Oh, wow. So I really couldn't have done much more with the 10 home runs because there was only 57 10 home... I got to keep that in mind, too. The Negro Leagues was back in, the early 1900s, so there weren't really any big power guys back then.
Yeah. Lindor.
And here are your more popular answers for your casuals.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's what we don't want to do. Like, we, of course, can name all these guys, but we want the lowest percentage. Like, that makes us feel good as baseball fans.
And just in case you were curious, here's the accuracy rate of everybody. 95, the 5% of people who didn't get this one, I'm sad.
Yeah.
There's 3% of people who didn't get that either. That's also sad.
Probably newcomers to the game. It
Probably,
is a
but
good
you
way to
know that
learn for, like, people, like, that are just trying to get into baseball, and it's a fun little game.
yeah, absolutely. But with that being done right there, I apologize for ruining it with Rube Foster. But that's gonna do it for another edition of Baseball for Maniacs.
Yep, this was a fun one. The fact that we talked about the AL West for at least 50 minutes was pretty interesting, but we have a lot of interesting owners, interesting teams, the Mariners, the Rangers, the Angels. So this was a fun episode. We'll come back. I think our next episode, we're going to do the NL East, which is going to be very exciting because obviously you guys see the flag. So can't wait for that one. And until the next time, I'll see you later, Ryan.
Yep, I got some shoveling to do, but until then, I'll see you in the next one.
Good luck.